Hello, I'm Cindy Allen, CEO of TradeForce Multiplier, a global trade consultancy service that handles everything from risk management and strategy to classification, 2829 handling, and other enforcement issues. Welcome to Simply Trade, Cindy's version, where I base an international trade update on a Taylor Swift song. Today is May 29th, 2026. And today's song is The New Romantics. I am brought to you in association with Global Training Center. Let's talk about trade. What has happened in trade for the past 2 weeks? Well, in the court, lots happening in the court these few weeks. The Court of International Trade refused to put a stay on its order telling CBP to stop collecting Section 122 tariffs on the 3 companies that were involved in the suit. However, the government's appeal to the circuit court prevents that order from taking effect, so those duties are still being collected by CBP for those 3 companies and also for the trade at large. In other court news, big news for reconciliation world, CBP has filed with the court a statement telling importers of record to go ahead and file underlying reconciliation entries without IEEPA, or to allow those underlying entries to go through the process. Even though they aren't yet allowed on CAPE, they are preparing for that to happen for that reconciliation. And for those of you who don't know, reconciliation is a 2-step process. You file underlying entries with an estimated value or classification that signals to CBP this is not final. And then you come back with what's known as an 09 entry or a reconciliation entry that actually finalizes that information. So that 2-step process has timelines involved. And for those who are close to that 9 finalization reconciliation filing, it may be problematic for them to try to hold off filing that 09 entry while they file the underlying reconciliation without the IEEPA duties. That court filing came just a few days ago. If you're involved with reconciliation, you'll want to take a look at that and speak with your broker and or your attorney on how that applies to you. Another big news this week, the court was set a direction for the CBP commissioner to actually appear before it. So this is a huge signal that the court is taking this to the next level and they are serious about what's happening moving forward. They have indicated in that next hearing on June 9th that they'll focus on the resolution of liquidated entries that paid IEEPA duties. The court lifted also the suspension of immediate compliance and directed all parties to show cause why it shouldn't be removed. And this means that it's removing the stay for the duties to be refunded for all entries. The concern seems to be twofold. One, CBP continues to liquidate entries with IEEPA duties on it if no protest is filed. And also, they want resolution on those finally liquidated entries that have been liquidated with those IEEPA duties, particularly those that are outside of that protest point and outside of the post-summary correction point, if the entry has not liquidated. And the fact that the judge wants the CBP commissioner to appear really signals the importance of this next hearing. So we will be avidly watching, along with all of you, what happens next. In CBP news, CAPE is going well, continues to be underlying issues with the entries that were transmitted. That has to do with the stacking and also appearance of the duty on the wrong tariff line within that line itself. So on that tariff number, some guidance was not out when those entries were first filed, and brokers did the best that they could to follow the guidance as they thought CBP intended, and the software allowed for that. This was in absence of particular guidance that was specific to instruct brokers how to do that and instruct software vendors how to actually program their systems, and much before the CBP edit checks were in place. So once those CAPE entries go back through that filing process in ACE, it's catching that information in the edit checks that it didn't before. Some of these can be resolved by the broker filing a post-summary correction to correct the order of the duties or to correct the appearance of the duty on the wrong line. But some of these are actually requiring CBP to intervene and correct that on that end. And it has caused some huge issues and some of those entries to be held up, not being able to file in the CAPE process and be corrected in ACE. Unfortunately, in related news, CBP is months behind in resolving help desk issues, requests for help that the trade has filed. This really is due to the massive demand for assistance in getting your ACE set up, helping with entries that don't go through that process. And really, it was unforeseen that these problems would occur. So the trade has recently been urging CBP to surge resources to the help desk and to address this unforeseen increase in requests. If you recall, or if you were around when ACE first came out and the functionality was rolled out, there was training given to all of the ports and the centers eventually that allowed them to resolve issues. So there are some that have some advanced training to allow them to help the ACE personnel in resolving some of these issues. So we hope that CBP looks at that as a model to move forward in getting some of these issues resolved. In the U.S. Trade Representative news, the U.S. Trade Representatives and their deputies are in active discussions to discuss the renewal of USMCA. This is not just merely a renewal, it's a renegotiation that's required. And it does require us to verify and ratify this new USMCA process. Discussions seem to be centered around the automotive content that requires a higher level of automotive content from one of the three countries involved in the USMCA, Canada, Mexico, and the US. It also has veered into general country of origin discussions. There seems to be some concern about China and other Asian partners funneling automotive parts and goods to Mexico for a mere assembly process and then coming into the United States under USMCA favorable duty terms. Rules of component level tracing and information, not just from the automotive sector, but for all sectors, have been discussed. And the level of information required and the tracing and trackability down to that component level is being discussed. Now, this is a very much broadening of a country of origin determination that has been discussed before, but has not yet taken effect outside of a trade agreement. So if those more stringent country of origin requirements, tracking and tracing, are required, this is going to require all of the trade partners to track more closely what is going into their product and not just do a regional value content calculation or a tariff shift calculation. So we're wondering if those tariff shifts are going to be a thing of the past, but those negotiations are ongoing. It is anticipated that they are going to move beyond that date where the negotiations were supposed to be concluded, but the U.S. Trade Representative has indicated they will continue negotiations, as will Mexico and Canada. In the meantime, Canada and Mexico continue to negotiate and announce other bilateral trade agreements, signaling the diversification of its supply chain and trade and shifting from the reliance only on the U.S. This has been a global phenomenon where we are seeing our most staunch trade partners continue to move away from trade agreements with the U.S. and strengthen trade agreements outside of the U.S. in region to region areas and locations. So this is really concerning for the trade partners in the U.S. So why did I choose this week New Romantics? Well, New Romantics song is about transforming hardship into something else new and energizing and using that to fuel your movement forward into a new area. And specifically, the lyrics that really struck me this week were, "We are the new romantics. Come on, come along with me. Heartbreak is the national anthem. We sing it proudly. We are too busy dancing to get knocked off of our feet." And really, this year has been relentless the past 16, 18 months. IEEPA, court challenges, de minimis was eliminated, requiring an entirely new process for those who are participating in direct-to-consumer trade. the CAPE process, automotive offsets, Section 230, component level 232 cases, Section 122, new Section 301 cases, and new Section 232 cases on pharmaceuticals. The new CPSC data that's required for entry into the United States. The trade didn't really get a break this year, and we don't see a break happening in the near future. But what's remarkable is that we kept showing up. Brokers still filed entries, compliance folks still helped navigate how to do all of this within a compliant framework, and importers kept strategizing and advising their CEOs and their leadership on how to move forward. So really, we are the new romantics. Unfortunately, heartbreak is our national anthem right now, but we'll continue to move forward, energize, and know that we have a very strong place in the trade community moving forward. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week.